The incompetent high school graduate. Go home.
At the celebration party for the new company president, it was the department head, Henry, who said that to me. Henry has always had a snide attitude towards me, and especially recently, he has been pushing unreasonable workloads and mandating overtime. Moreover, today my seat, which should have been at the party venue, was found discarded outside. Hearing Henry's words, I reached my breaking point. But making a scene would just play into his hands. I managed to keep my composure and responded, "Yes, I understood." Then, I left the venue pretending nothing was wrong. Right after, luxury cars started pulling up in front of me. The people getting out greeted me with smiles, but seeing this, Henry was shocked. When he realized who these people were to me, he ended up regretting his behavior. My name is Ken Ford, and I turned 36 this year. I work at a manufacturer in a regional area, and my position is that of a team leader. I'm a bit young for my position, but otherwise, I'm just an average guy. I'm not particularly talented or considered elite. That's why I strive to work harder than anyone else. I've been with this company for about 14 years and enjoy my job. However, there are some things I just can't accept. One of them is Henry Smith, who was assigned as the department head this year. Henry is 52 years old and has a high-handed attitude. He has a particularly bad attitude toward me.
Translate all the German sections of this document, and also add any missing information.
Understood. What's the deadline?
I need it for a meeting tomorrow morning, so have it ready by then.
By tomorrow. Henry began assigning unreasonable tasks as soon as he took office. I could manage if I abandoned my own work for a few hours. But Henry assigned me the task just 1 hour before the end of the workday. A quick glance at the documents made it clear that it wasn't a 1-hour job. It was impossible to finish, so I told Henry that, but he just said, "A team leader should be able to handle this much." I wanted to ask other employees for help, but it was a particularly busy period, and everyone was swamped with their own projects. In the end, I couldn't ask anyone for help, and I ended up working overtime until the last train. As I silently complied with Henry's demands, I realized he wasn't treating other employees this harshly. While Henry is domineering towards other employees as well, he doesn't impose unreasonable tasks or unrealistic deadlines on them like he does with me. Curious about why he does this, I decided to directly ask Henry, "Henry, why do you only assign unreasonable tasks to me?" I wondered if my question was too direct, but beating around the bush wouldn't really help. Moreover, it was the day of the department's party, so I thought that with alcohol involved, I might get an honest answer. As I awaited his response, Henry suddenly burst into laughter.
You haven't realized yourself that you're incompetent.
Me?
Who else? I heard you're just a high school grad. Why on earth did they hire someone so incompetent?
I don't know how Henry knows, but I only graduated high school. There are various reasons for that, and it's not something I usually talk about, so I haven't told anyone. From the way Henry spoke earlier, it seems he's been giving me unreasonable work because I'm just a high school graduate. Is it right to be treated so unfairly? Under the influence of alcohol, which dulled my thinking, I mulled over many things in my head. Henry seemed amused by my state and laughed even louder. The party ended, and the next day, normal daily life resumed as usual. The difference now was that Henry taunted me for being a high school grad. I managed to endure it in the beginning, but after many similar days, I became mentally depressed. Lately, Henry's sarcasm and insults have become a source of stress for me, causing hives and sleepless nights. While I've been managing to go to work despite visiting the doctor, honestly, I felt so pressured mentally and physically that I've wanted to call in sick. Still, as a team leader, there are duties I must perform, and calling in sick wouldn't be fair to my colleagues. Imagining my hard-working colleagues, I couldn't just run away. How long will these days continue? Negative thoughts dominated my mind every day. Amidst this, a new president took office. It had been rumored for a while, and a party was organized for his inauguration. The new president isn't great at speaking publicly and isn't often seen. However, he was expected to attend this party, sparking curiosity among the employees.
I'm looking forward to the inauguration party.
Yeah, sure.
Are you planning to attend? You're in such a position now that you're going to join the party.
Despite everyone being invited, Henry made such remarks. I guess he's trying to make me suffer mentally with his sarcasm. Initially, I considered not attending, but I couldn't let things go Henry's way any longer. I decided with confidence to attend the inauguration party. On the day of the party, I arrived just in time. Employees were already gathering, sitting in their designated seats. I used the seating chart to find my spot. Unfortunately, I ended up next to Henry, but at such a large party, I didn't expect any trouble. While searching for my seat, feeling assured I could attend peacefully, I realized there was no chair prepared for me when comparing the seating chart to the actual seats. It was as if a hole had been left there intentionally. Seeing me standing confused with the seating chart, Henry, who had already arrived, looked over with a smirk.
What's the matter? Aren't you going to sit down?
No, it seems my seat is missing.
That's right. I threw it out beforehand.
Now that I think about it, when I was entering the party venue, I noticed a chair oddly placed outside. It was knocked over, so I thought, maybe it was because of the wind. But it turns out that Henry had apparently thrown that chair out. Is that so? I'll go pick it up then. I told Henry before attempting to head outside, but I was stopped by a loud voice from behind.
The incompetent high school graduate. Go home.
I thought he would behave today, given it's the celebration for the new company president, but it seems such occasions mean nothing to him. It seemed like a few people noticed the commotion, recognizing Henry as the troublesome department head. No one stopped him. If I'm going to be so unreasonable, then sure, I'd better go home. Thinking this, I said to Henry, I understood. I'll leave as you said.
So, you finally admit you're just a high school grad?
Henry retorted, thinking I was conceding defeat. As I grabbed my bag to leave, Henry added insult to injury.
I'll walk you to the entrance since it must be lonely to leave by yourself.
He followed behind me as I left. What a hassle. I was filled with a desire to get away from Henry. As I tried to leave the venue calmly, something unexpected happened. As Henry and I were leaving the party venue, a line of luxury cars started pulling up in front of the venue. All the cars parked in front of the venue were clearly luxury models. Among them was a particularly striking black limousine, and as we stood there stunned, the door opened. From inside the limousine emerged our new president. Dressed sharply in a well-fitted suit, stylish tie, leather shoes, and a watch. He's not commonly seen in public, and few know he has a taste for fashion. Looking at Henry, he seemed mesmerized by the president's smart appearance. As soon as the new president saw us, he broke into a smile and jogged over.
Ken, it's been a while. How have you been? Are you eating properly?
I'm 36 now. Stop treating me like a kid. I'm taking good care of my health. Watching me talk with the new president, Henry's eyes widened in surprise.
Well, what is the relationship between the new president and Ken?
Ken's my son. Haven't you told anyone?
Hearing this from the new president, Henry looked incredulous. Actually, the truth is that the new president and I are father and son. The new president, David Ford, is taking over the company as the previous president, my grandfather, decided to retire. I didn't want to be seen as benefiting from nepotism or getting the job through connections, so I never told anyone that I was the grandson of the former president and the son of the new president. However, since we share the same last name, some people might have suspected. It seems Henry had no clue at all.
Your son. So does that mean Ken will eventually become the president?
It's not officially decided yet, but if things continue this way, I believe it will happen.
Is that even right?
It seems my father sensed something from our interaction. He stared at Henry, contemplating what to say. I hadn't told my father about the harassment from Henry, nor did I intend to make a big issue out of it.
Is there something you want to say?
But when my father asked, I had no other choice. He has always been able to see right through me. To tell the truth, I've been harassed by the department head, Henry, every day. At that moment, I saw my father's eyebrows twitch momentarily. Henry was looking down, so I couldn't see his expression, but he was clenching his fists and trembling slightly. See that chair over there? He apparently threw it out as part of his harassment. Told me that high school grads should go home.
Is that so? Just to confirm, is this story true?
My father turned to Henry and asked. Around them were secretaries and security personnel who had come with my father, creating quite an intimidating presence. Fu can honestly answer that I was harassing the new president's son. Regardless of the actual situation, it's normal to think that one might be fired for such actions. Henry is bossy toward people in lower positions than himself, but he flatters those above him. Therefore, there's no way he could admit to the president, I have been harassing your son. Henry, looking down and unable to speak, just muttered,
Well,
the party is about to start, so we can talk about the details another time.
After saying that, my father entered the party venue. I picked up the chair that had been discarded outside and followed my father into the venue. After setting the chair back in its place, I joined the party, but Henry did not appear again. With Henry absent, I truly enjoyed the party from the bottom of my heart and felt really glad about it. Perhaps I should have just come out and said earlier that I am the son of the new president. That day, having enjoyed a few drinks, I was able to sleep soundly for the first time in a long while. The next day, I went to the office as usual. I hope Henry has reflected on what happened yesterday. While I expected an apology from Henry, I sat at my desk as usual. Normally, Henry would have started bombarding me with various tasks from the morning, but today he unusually didn't approach me. As I continued working in that state, the afternoon arrived. As the afternoon came, Henry and I were summoned to the president's office, and we headed there in silence.
So, why have you been harassing Ken?
it's because he's just a high school graduate and can't do the job.
Really? Is it true that Ken couldn't handle his job?
I've managed to complete everything I was asked to do, even staying late to finish tasks. My father pondered for a moment before asking Henry another question.
By the way, do you know why Ken only graduated from high school?
No, I don't know.
Hearing Henry's response, my father began to slowly explain the reasons behind my educational background. Firstly, I had an older brother about 10 years my senior. He doted on me, and I adored him. However, not long after graduating from college, he announced he was going overseas. I didn't want to be separated from my brother and said I'd go with him, but he insisted I finish high school first. My father also said he wouldn't allow me to go until I had graduated from high school, so I reluctantly gave up on the idea. Eventually, my brother left for abroad alone. We kept in touch regularly through emails and phone calls, so I didn't feel too lonely. Then, I received news that my brother had become ill. Panicked, I begged my father to let me go to him, and I rushed to be by my brother's side. By the time I arrived, his illness had progressed, and we couldn't even rejoice in our reunion. I had planned to return home after seeing my brother, but I couldn't bear to leave him, and told my father I wanted to stay. Initially, my father tried to bring me back by force, but seeing my determination, he allowed me to stay with my brother. I took care of him with the help of locals, and decided to stay by his side until the end. His illness was terminal, with no prospects for recovery. As his condition worsened, my desire to stay with him grew, and I often cried when no one was watching. A year after I arrived abroad, my brother passed away. His reason for going overseas was to study to eventually take over our family business. After my brother passed away, I returned home, but I didn't have the energy to attend high school. I barely managed to graduate by attending the minimum number of days required. After graduating, I spent days confined at home, but eventually, I started a part-time job as a step towards re-entering society. Working was the only time I felt alive, and gradually, I began to enjoy it. After working for several years, I was approached with the question, "Would you like to become a staff member?" And I officially began working as a full-time employee. Having fully reintegrated into society, I was regaining my confidence and began to pursue the dreams my brother had inspired in me. Now, working as a regular employee at the company, I aspire to become someone capable of taking over the company in the future. Henry had been silently listening to this conversation, but when I glanced sideways, it seemed like he was crying.
I had no idea you went through all that.
Why are you crying?
I have a younger brother, and hearing your story, I just started seeing him in you.
Henry seemed to love his brother, and he saw his brother as me, which made him feel inexpressible. He added that if his brother were in a similar situation to mine, he couldn't bear the thought of him being harassed by a supervisor. I had thought him to be cold-hearted, but it turns out he has a more complex side. These thoughts crossed my mind as I watched him cry. After seeing Henry's remorseful demeanor, my father said he would forgive him this time. Seeing how downcast Henry was, I also felt I had no choice but to forgive him. Henry, who had not expected to be forgiven, was relieved to hear my father's and my words of forgiveness. He added that he would make sure nothing like this happened again, and then left the president's office. From then on, Henry stopped assigning me unreasonable tasks and stopped giving me work that clearly couldn't be finished. He still speaks in a somewhat condescending tone, but he now distributes work more fairly and even helps out when there are tasks that can't be completed on time. It took some time to get used to this new Henry, but after about 6 months, it felt normal. With Henry no longer harassing me, the office atmosphere seemed to improve noticeably. It's true that when someone is having a hard time, it can dampen the entire environment. The office felt overall brighter, which seemed to increase work productivity. A comfortable working environment really does inspire people to do their best. If I ever become president, I vowed to create an environment where all employees can work comfortably. And I resolved that if any employee were to suffer harassment like I did, I would do everything in my power to protect them. Several years have passed since then, and I was promoted to a managerial position. Henry is still the department head, but one thing has changed. That means that the distance between me and Henry became closer. We only used to talk about work-related things, but now we share personal matters too. We sometimes go out to eat after work, and I can even seek his advice on various matters.
The trouble this time isn't your fault, Ken, so just be confident.
But the client's presence is so intimidating.
Then, I'll join you for the next meeting.
Whereas before he would have told me to handle troubles on my own, now he is looking out for me. Since he said he saw his own brother in me, he probably still thinks of me as a brother-like figure. Truthfully, I've come to see him as an older brother figure. I sometimes wonder what life would have been like if my real brother were still alive. Relationships can improve from simple incidents, and a wrong move can end them just as easily. Finding someone I can respect, like a brother, makes me feel truly fortunate. I initially thought he was a disagreeable person, but avoiding wrong actions usually steers things in a good direction. As I was attending our regular dinners with Henry, I found myself reflecting on these farts. Seeing me like this, Henry was smiling and chuckling as he sipped his drink. This experience has taught me to always respond calmly and earnestly to any situation. I have a long way to go in my life, but I will live with this lesson in my heart.